Good morning, everyone. I'm Mandara Cromwell, and my company, Cyma Technologies, is a proud sponsor of the Wise Traditions 2022 conference. And I am going to share my screen now so we can begin the presentation. This morning, I'm going to share with you how to achieve optimum health and longevity with Acoustic Meridian intelligence. Now, for those of you who don't know me or are familiar with my work, I've been researching audible sound frequencies for the past 20 years and exactly how to utilize them to support our health. Here on the left, you see 5 of the devices I've birthed, in addition to authoring a book and producing several cymatics art films and videos. And for those of you who would like a PDF of this presentation, because we're going to be going through rather quickly, please contact me through the website and I'll send you a PDF version of all the visuals. Okay, so this morning we're going to really focus on the increase of oxygen and decrease of inflammation. These are two areas of our health that we really need help with in this particular time as we're here going through the cycles of a lot of crazy conditions that are affecting our health. Anyway, these two particular conditions uh, are at the forefront. And so we're going to talk about increasing oxygen. We're going to use optimization frequencies to increase healthy red blood cells, to fortify our immune system, and to optimize the oxygen in our lungs. And for decreasing inflammation, we are going to use specific frequencies to improve digestion, reduce toxicity, and to increase our recovery for injuries. So I'm also going to share with you how we are combining Mother Nature's gifts of tourmaline and germanium, and they produce an infrared photon energy and negative ions that act as an oxygen catalyst. They help us mitigate pain, and I've created a new delivery system that is designed to enhance the potential healing of the body. I've also created a 3-point system. This is where we create a specific sound geometry, resulting in brilliant lines of communication through the body's messaging system. And the synergy of known acupoints, we combine that with Mother Nature's gifts of tourmaline and germanium to enhance the healing potential. So first of all, let's take a look at oxygen. If we remember back from our high school chemistry class, we have the periodic table, and we learned that oxygen, O2, is essential to all living organisms. And what we're really focusing on right now is what happens when we don't have enough oxygen. And when we consult WebMD, they say without oxygen, your brain, liver, and other organs can be damaged just minutes after symptoms start. Hypoxemia, which is low oxygen in your blood, can cause hypoxia, which is low oxygen in your tissues. When your blood doesn't carry enough oxygen to your tissues to meet your body's needs. And the word hypoxia is sometimes used to describe both problems. Now, how would we know if we're experiencing hypoxemia or hypoxia? It's interesting that these symptoms, many of us have a few times a week. And so we wouldn't really know if we're suffering from low oxygen. Some of these symptoms are confusion, headache, a rapid heart rate, cough, difficulty breathing. Now, bluish skin, most of us would know that something's awry if we have bluish skin. Right now, we have this, whatever the recent outbreak is called, it is wreaking havoc on our respiratory systems. And it is causing a condition called silent hypoxia. And here we have from medical labs saying one of the biggest and most life-threatening aspects of this outbreak causes silent hypoxia, a condition when oxygen levels in the body are abnormally low, which can irreparably damage vital organs if gone undetected for too long. Despite experiencing dangerously low levels of oxygen, many people, even healthy people, infected sometimes show no symptoms of shortness of breath or difficulty breathing. Hypoxia's ability to quietly inflict damage to the lungs is why it's coined silent. And here are medications that cause low oxygen. So if you're already on some of these medications, you already have low levels of oxygen in the body. And these are antibiotics, heart medicines, chemotherapy drugs, heavy metals, and street drugs. Now I want to move to where we find solutions for this, or where my research has led me to help people with their health with these conditions. Back in 2001, I met a British osteopath. You see him pictured here on the left of your screen, Dr. Peter Guy Manners. And he was the last living member of a collaborative group of scientists and researchers who put together a body of work with the biosignatures, frequencies of each part of the body. And I began working with him. He called his therapy at that time cymatic therapy. Now, cymatics is a whole different study, a science of a wave phenomena. And so, to distinguish between the therapy and the science of making sound visible, I coined the term cymotherapy, and we began working together and researching. So, I mentioned to you that Dr. Manners was the last living member of a collaborative group of scientists. What they discovered were over 750 frequency patterns that address each part of the body. And these are all audible sounds. They are applied transdermally to the body, so they aren't applied through the ears, it's through the skin. The skin is an amazing organ to, uptake sound. And the sounds are to boost the body, support the body, not destroy. So there are special frequencies for, say, collagen, connective tissue, the liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas. Each of these codes, we call them, consists of 5 frequencies. So it's like a very special quintet playing to your liver, another special quintet playing to your gallbladder, a very special quintet playing to your thyroid and your kidneys and your lungs, etc. And so I noticed that there are some specific codes listed that really pertain to increasing oxygen levels. And of course, we have a code for oxygen, for the lungs, for germanium, for cell regeneration. And all of these consist of 5 frequencies. So I set about researching these and how we might be able to utilize these specific sound frequencies to help us with our states of oxygen. Um, and I, in the end, created what I call AMI frequency patterning. I have figured out a way to layer these frequencies to produce a very effective and quick effect on the human body. So here is my colleague, John Stewart Reed. He's an acoustics researcher, and he is in the Cymoscope laboratory. And he innovated the next generation of Dr. Yenny's work, the tonoscope, and John has called his innovation the Cymoscope. And so we work together, collaborate in some research. So I'm going to share some of the research that we've done together. And so here's John in his laboratory. And here you see his cymoscope. In this area is where he has a little glass crystal cuvette. And he's injecting some very special laboratory water. And here in this lower part of the cymoscope is where the sound is generated. So the sound is generating and it appears on the water. The geometric forms are captured above in the camera. And so this is the perspective from where we will view these images. And some of you may have seen John's research in the Water Journal where he scoped a healthy living cell and also the cell of a cancer patient. And so you see the healthy cell has this beautiful geometry, whereas the cell on your right is showing some dissonance. It needs a little bit of help. So John had this idea that he wanted to measure the cell viability and the oxygen levels in the red blood cells. And I'm going to just share with you quickly how this experiment was done. You can see all the details on the experiment.com platform. But basically what he did is he took the blood, type O blood, and decanted it into 2 vials. And he put one vial in the incubator with a speaker for 20 minutes and the other vial in a Faraday cage where it's kept very quiet and away from those frequencies. And in the end, after 20 minutes, he took those vials out and put the blood through a cell counter and through an oxygen measuring device. And so what he found was that there was a really amazing increase in the red blood cells. One of the codes that we experiment with is the code that is in my AMI devices called oxygen support. And so I'm going to play this. It's a very brief footage of what the cells were exposed to with this set of 5 frequencies. Oops, I'm back. So you'll see it begin, the vibration. This is the imprint at the cellular level of 5 frequencies. So when we stop the footage, we can now better examine what's going on. So there's a sound bubble, and we're looking at slices of that bubble. You can see to the left, and when you look, compare it to the cymoglyph on the right, you'll see a slight variation. You see the vibratory effect in its next stage. And then when we see yet another slice of the sound bubble, we see in the center where we can really identify a shift in the phasing of these frequencies. And this is one way where we can really take a look at what's happening at our cellular level with the science of cymatics. So look for these advancements in the coming decades. So as I mentioned, we tried a lot of different frequencies from my device. That one was for oxygen. We also had for lungs, for germanium, for cell regeneration. And so I want to share with you the results of cell regeneration. And so here the control was 920,000 per milliliter blood cells. And after 20 minutes, it increased to 3.4 million per milliliter. And so John said, hey, this is the highest number of living red blood cells in any of the music selections. Now, he says this because he not only compared the sounds that I'm working with, but he also compared the music of a male voice, a female voice, dance music, the waltz, the cha-cha, dance, disco, techno music. He used spiritual music, all types of music. And so anyway, we were really happy to find out that our cell regeneration codes and some of the other codes I'm going to share with you in just a moment were the top winners. So what John says is this is actually helping the cells regain their membrane integrity and increasing the oxygenation of the red blood cells. So here we see that for cell regeneration, it increased the cell viability over 365%. This is amazing because that means that we have more energy. The oxygenated blood is able to flow more freely, go to the parts of the body it's really needed, and absorb the nutrients. And that the increase in oxygen was over 15%. So here you see many of the codes that we experimented with, the lungs, and oh wow, look at there, the blood immune was incredible. So anyway, John wrote to me and he said, Mandara, in a nutshell, immersing blood in your AMI frequencies repairs the membranes of old red blood cells and gives them new life. This is a great result. This result shows that our oxygen driving hypothetical mechanism is almost certainly correct. More oxygen availability drives protein repair. The oxygen is already dissolved in the blood, but certain sound frequencies cause the hemoglobin molecules in the red blood cells to absorb even more oxygen. And this is due to the pressure exhibited by the specific sound frequencies. The sonic mechanism mimics the effect of the pressure pulses of the heart. So this is absolutely thrilling. He says, addendum, there were more than twice the number of viable red blood cells after immersion in the germanium code, and the oxygen partial pressure had risen by 10 points. So that got me thinking about germanium. I did another research project with a doctor of psychology. We took 10 subjects and we hooked them up to EEG equipment. And you see here, we put them on the device. So they're sitting in a chair and the sound is traveling up the feet through the meridian pathways and reaching all parts of the body. And so after the 10 subjects where all the data was collected, she turned to me and she said, what happened at 23 minutes? She says it's like the brain has this incredible inhale and exhale at the 23-minute mark. So we looked up and it was germanium. So let's take a look at germanium on the periodic table because I have to admit, I had sort of forgotten my high school chemistry class, but it's number 32 on the periodic table. And when I researched the medical texts from Eastern Europe, they have documented germanium to help fight pain, detoxify the body, keeps the immune system functioning properly, enhances the body's natural healing powers for low energy, cataracts, cancer, AIDS, heart disease, and arthritis. And it possibly stimulates glutathione production. So, if those of you heard, I think it was Dr. Shade earlier today about the dental issues, and he talked about glutathione, and that is one of the kings of antioxidants. So, germanium has this potential to stimulate glutathione production. It's found in the text by Russians as an antioxidant, anti-cancer, anti-mutagen, and oxygen catalyst. The result of enhancing oxygen supply to the cells is increased energy production. And hey, who couldn't use more energy? So, also, I found in this Journal of Biosciences and Medicines, just published recently in 2017, advances in effects of germanium. And they say in their final words that germanium could increase blood absorption of oxygen. And so, this is really the same thing that John and I are finding out in our research. So, what is germanium? It's a natural occurring element with the same crystal structure as a diamond. And hey, did you know that trace amounts of it can be found in foods such as shiitake mushrooms, garlic, ginseng, aloe, comfrey, tuna, and tomato juice? So we have the code for germanium, and I'm going to share that with you right now. So we're going to have the full minute of germanium. So I'd like for you to just to sit back, maybe sit tall a little bit and take a deep breath and exhale. And let's take in the sound geometry and the amazing imprint upon ourselves of the code of germanium with 5 frequencies. So, in watching that, you can see how it's massaging our cells. And I find it very interesting that there's a star shape that emerges. And if we think back to geometry, and possibly for those of you who have studied art, there's the golden ratio. And this star shape very much resonates with many things in nature and particularly in our own physiology. So, So, with all of this information, I have created 2 new devices, which we're sharing with all of you at this conference. I've taken the patterning, the layering of the 5 sound frequencies, and included the 2 most important oxygen codes, oxygen giving codes, well, actually, more than 2, plus Mother Nature's gifts of germanium and tourmaline embedded. So the blue parts that you see on the handheld device, that is a special silicone sheet that has germanium and tourmaline embedded in that silicone sheet. And the same way with the AMI 850 that you see on the right, the blue is a combination of the gel with a silicone cover with the germanium and tourmaline to give the added benefit. And so here with the handheld device, we have a special 3-point system that we use called sound geometry. And so geometric shapes hold the messages. And so this is one of the reasons we believe that the sound stays with us for 48 to 72 hours after we've been exposed to it. And so now, so these are the 5 channels that come on the AMI 500: oxygen optimization, sound dental health for the lymph system, female vital energy, and male vital energy. And so now I'd like to share with you a little bit of one of our subjects in our pilot study. John's a 45-year-old male computer analyst and sports enthusiast. And he came to us with low energy and a chronic cough, which had developed after several bouts with the diagnosis of the COVID-19 virus. He had given up his usual workout schedule as his energy had waned and he was unable to accomplish his previous program after a day at work. He noted minimal chest pain that accompanied his cough, but this was only when he had flare ups. And by flare ups, we mean when he started coughing, then the pain in the chest would become evident. So he's trying the AMI 500 with the 3-point system. And so we start with this particular protocol with the device on the solar plexus, and then you alternate between each palm of the hand. And this is a full 30-minute session. So he committed to a 3-week study where he was able to receive these 3 30-minute sessions with the AMI 500 every week. After the first session, he reported a feeling of euphoria and an ease in breathing that he had not felt in a while. At the end of the first week, he still reported the symptoms of coughing and fatigue, but commented that he felt hopeful that the therapy would help him. At the end of the second week, he reported a general sense of well being and that the coughing flare ups had been less. And when he was stressed out at work, when he was stressed out at work, he still had less of the flare ups. By the end of the third week, he reported that he had taken a few short walks during his lunch breaks at work with no coughing spells and no chest pain. He voiced a desire to continue the sessions and said that he felt sure with consistent use of the therapy, he would continue to improve. He also believed that the cough would completely resolve if he were to continue the sessions. So, this was just after 3 weeks of using this particular channel. So, we're really happy about that. Anyway, all of our channels have um, we went through pilot studies, and so this is just one I wanted to share with you today because a lot of people are dealing with this respiratory residual, and this is a great tool to have in your box. So now we're going to talk about inflammation. And inflammation is one of those conditions that it becomes chronic very easily. So for those of you who went out last night and maybe imbibed a little spirit, this is a slide thanks to Dr. Christine Horner from the American Academy of Thermology. She took thermology scan of this young chap after he had had a few beers. And so what we're seeing on the left side of your screen is the before. His torso looks very clear, looks very healthy. But what we see on the right after he's had the beers is some inflammatory marks throughout his torso. So I'm only showing this because, sometimes our healthcare providers say you really need to cut back on the inflammatory producing foods and drinks in your diet. And so here, this is an encouragement to say we can see it when we go for thermal scans that it can be detected. And so if we manage and save those spirited libations for special occasions, then we have a better opportunity for our bodies to stay healthy. Now, this chap is young and he's probably processed all that out by drinking water and exercising today. But let's take a look at inflammation. Where do we find chronic inflammation? Well, cardiovascular disease, musculoskeletal and skin diseases, cancer, reproductive diseases, neurological diseases, obesity, metabolic syndrome conditions, respiratory diseases, autoimmune diseases. Gosh, it's everything, isn't it? Chronic inflammation is at the core of all degenerative conditions. We pick this up. Added inflammation is we're exposed to it through toxins and the pollution and industrial chemicals. If you have untreated acute inflammation, such as an infection or injury, and we're going to talk a little bit more about infections and injuries in just a moment, but if these go untreated and they become a chronic cycle of inflammation, that's where we get into trouble. And again, I mentioned earlier, diet, exercise, and toxic emotional relationships are very inflammatory to the whole body. So here on Time Magazine, and it's been on the cover of many magazines, sadly, that inflammation is the silent assassin. While all pain is caused by inflammation, it is much more than local pain and injury. In fact, all chronic disease has an inflammatory relationship. And if it goes undetected and not treated correctly, chronic systemic inflammation leads to a complex web of chronic disease that we see in our patient population today. And I've already mentioned most of these. So it's here. We all have it. We need to manage it. So how would you know if you have inflammation if you don't already, know that? Well, if you have pain, muscles, tendons, if you have joint stiffness, insomnia, sleep apnea, allergies, food sensitivities, migraines, indigestion, skin rashes, chronic stress, whether it be physical, mental, or emotional, these are all inflammatory producing conditions, and persistent fatigue, weight gain, or unexplained loss. So I developed a tool that I am excited to share with you. This is based on acoustic meridian intelligence. And so here is the part of the presentation that I tell you what is acoustic meridian intelligence. A stands for acoustic, meaning audible sound. The device emits audible sounds and it travels the meridians. And so here you see the image to the left. We have the meridians. These are called the rivers of life in Chinese medicine. They are an amazing network communication. They are pathways that the body uses for communication. They are super highways. And the I is the intelligence for the body's innate system. The body knows exactly where it needs this sound nutrition. And 850 is we have many codes of 5 frequencies that we layer into these protocols. So here you see a young lady sitting in a chair with her feet resting comfortably on the device. So it's a very easy application and very effective. So in the AMI 850, we have 20 channels. We have 10 channels for health and longevity, stress relief, and I'm going to be talking about that in just a moment. That is a very effective and powerful channel. We have a channel for musculoskeletal pain, for inflammatory pain. Channel 4 is vitality for people who just can't get out of bed. Anti-aging. This protocol is based on the 5 elements of Chinese medicine to tonify all of our organs and the organ systems. And then we have a special protocol for the immune support, the respiratory, the cardiovascular, digestive, and nervous system to support all of these systems in the body. So I mentioned earlier that we do not have frequencies that actually destroy pathogens. We are actually using the other side of sound where we're supporting everything so that everything can come back in line. And so then we have 10 channels to fortify the body's functions, the cellular dance, and you probably can guess some of the codes that are in that one. We have a protocol for memory and focus, for bone fitness, energy, body nutrition, emotional harmony is fantastic. Toxicity clearing, sound sleep, vibrant body nutrition, immune shield, and metabolic balance. So it is categorized by the FDA as a class 1 device, which means you don't need a prescription to own one. And we, of course, do not make medical claims, but this device helps to relieve stress and pain. And of course, any condition that you can think of that you're diagnosed with is very stressful. So we want to definitely relieve stress, right? So how does this really work? So we have the person here sitting in a chair, and you see her feet are resting comfortably on the device. So the sound is creating this lattice structure all around. It's a very special transducer on a platform, and the whole platform plate serves as an amplifier. So you get sound encircling your whole body. And so the body feels this like cocoon, and it's the sound resonances are bouncing back and forth. Your body is listening and regaining its coherent mechanism. So it's a very targeted sound approach to move beyond physical and emotional trauma. And once those areas we find are released, people have more creativity and more vitality, because for those of you who suffer from chronic pain, once that pain is gone, you really have room for a lot more joy in your life. So you might be asking, hey, Mandara, how is it that these meridians work? Well, I want to spend just a moment here talking about Dr. Joey Jones' work. And he has gone into the heavenly realms now, but he was at University of California, Irvine, and he published a paper on comparing the efficacy of the meridian pathways. So here you see on the left side of your screen, the lower legs. What is uh, being designated here are specific acupoints that are related to our vision. So, if you went to an acupuncturist or an oriental doctor, they would stimulate these points if you wanted to strengthen your eyes, or if you had an eye disorder, they would, stimulate, treat this part of the body. So Dr. Jones said, well, I want to see if that has any validity. And so you see on the right side of your screen that he was going to compare it to shining a light into the retina of the eye. And so here we see the stimulation of the eye where he shined the light in the eye. And to the right of your screen, you see that it's picked up by fMRI as showing up in the visual cortex of the brain. And when he stimulated the bladder points, the vision points on the lateral side of the foot, wow, it showed up in the visual cortex as well. So this proves that there's some communication system there, right? Well, here is the amazing fact. It took the light 250 milliseconds shining here right into the retina. It took that long for it to register in the visual cortex. But going all the way from the bottom of the foot to the visual cortex, it arrived in 0.000007 seconds. So that is showing that the meridian pathways are super highways. And so he used this with sonopuncture, so sound, and it is indistinguishable from needling. So this is very exciting news to support the meridian efficacy. So now I want to share with you a few slides of pain and inflammation, and this is a little brief study that we did using Channel 2 for musculoskeletal pain. Right here on your left, you see an 8-year-old sports injury, and what we're looking at here is pain and inflammation in the left lower leg, and this person had to take some type of over-the-counter uh, aids to help them sleep most nights. So we know that after a while, those kind of build up and they're very hard on the liver and many other systems of the body. But after 20 minutes of being exposed to the device, sitting in a chair with their feet on the device, you see that the pain and inflammation begins to dissipate. And here it is 25 hours later, the sound is still working. We have a study that was published in the BIMS journal on peripheral artery disease. Peripheral artery disease affects 200 million people nationwide, according to the American Heart Association. So as we get older, and we have slightly more sedentary lifestyles, the blood goes down to the feet and it has a difficult time getting back up, and it creates these types of situations. So what we see here on the left, you see two subjects, one on the top, one on the bottom, and those are, it's an inflammatory process there, whether they feel it or not. And so this is a silent situation to begin with. And so then after 15 minutes, you see the afters after 15 minutes of being exposed to the sound frequencies. We also have regeneration of tissue, and these are torn tendons. Happens to be equine tissue. And this horse was actually, they wanted to put it down because the tear was so severe. What we see that in 6 weeks, the tissue has totally regenerated with these sounds. And the amazing thing is there's no scar tissue, there are no adhesions. This is really phenomenal. And so if this happens to equine friends, um, it's really a great indication what it might do for those of us who've had torn tendons in our lives. According to Cornell University, they say 30% of all people will have a tendon injury, and the risk is higher in women. So those are good frequencies to know about as well. So now I want to share with you a very interesting pilot study that we did with some women who were having challenges in their torso. This particular woman is the wife of a chiropractor, and she had been having thermal scans every year, and the scans just kept getting worse. This is her 10th year that we met her, and her husband had given her all kinds of nutraceuticals, IVs, lasers, saunas, etc., and it wasn't really being able to make any impact. So here you see on her right, our left side, and here you see the lymph nodes in the underarm area are being very taxed. And here we have in the oral cavity. So I'm a big proponent of oral health and the relationship between our oral health and our overall health. And I'm going to talk about that more in just a little bit. But when the thermal imaging person, technician, told me about this particular woman, that she was having such a difficult time that every year for 10 years it's getting worse, I asked if she would also include capturing the oral cavity. So, what we did is a 6 week protocol. There were 30-minute sessions, 5 times a week for 2 weeks, and 3 times a week for 4 weeks. And so, after 6 weeks, we see this success. Look at how this is all calmed down. Look at the oral cavity and look at the lymph area. So we've relaxed the body. This is what's happening here. We're not curing anything. We have relaxed the body to the extent that things are moving and flowing more easily. Now, if you will take a look at the oral cavity, the before and the after, it looks like in the after, there's still something happening there. So, my suggestion to this woman was that she might visit her dentist and see if there were any crowns or cavities, bridges, anything happening there, because when there's still inflammation there, we may be able to track the source of where this is coming from. Also, I'd like to point out for those of you who are familiar with Chinese medicine and the meridian system, we see many women who have this challenge have a connection to their molars, and this woman is exactly a great example of that, where in the before pictures, that same meridian from her right side of their body all the way down through the torso is being affected. So, how does it work? We're calling the cells back to resonance. Sound creates an interconnectedness of the mind and body system. All of our systems hear this sound. And what happens is not only are we affecting the physical, we're also affecting the mental and the emotional bodies as well. So it helps to mediate pain, it closes the pain gate, it decreases the inflammatory process, it optimizes oxygen, stimulates nitric oxide, incites the vagus nerve, regeneration of soft tissue, and boosts natural killer cells, and reduces levels of the stress hormone cortisol. And we have lots of testimonials on our website if you'd like to go there and read them. So in this conference, Dr. Beverly Rubik is here, and she has been using our device for some of her experiments. And what she found in the stress relief channel, channel 1, was increase in white blood cell activity. So in my work with John Reed, we were looking at red blood cells, the red blood cell viability, the red blood cells ability to absorb oxygen. Here, she's looking at the white blood cells. And so she says that in the microscope, she saw the white blood cells become more active. And so they were more efficient in their job of floating around. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what the white blood cells do, they travel around through all parts of our body and gobble up all of the things, the debris that that is necessary for us to get rid of. Those cells that go a little rogue and all that, we need those white blood cells to help us with that. So we're really happy to hear about Dr. Rubik's research using our device, and that was with Channel One for stress relief. So this is just, preliminary investigation, and we aren't making any claims here, but we sure do need those white blood cells to help. They're a key part of our immune system. So now I want to talk to you about dental health. So if we go to PubMed and we search, put in the search bar, oral bacteria linked to disease, you will see over 2,000 results of papers, published papers, linking disease to the bacteria in our mouth. And this is all kinds of disease, heart disease, lung, um, a plethora. And so here are the results by year. So you see that these studies, we're not the only ones looking at this. There are a lot of people who are investigating the correlation between the bacteria in our mouth and some other body processes that seem to be that we become aware of. So this is not news, though. For over 5,000 years in Ayurveda, in the Indian system, and in Chinese medicine, they have related the teeth to organ systems. And so we always look at what's happening in the mouth when we can't maybe figure out what's going on. And also, part of investigating in the oral cavity is the lymph system. And so this is again part of the area where we need those white blood cells to be very active. We need to have a free flowing lymph system. This is very active at night while we sleep. So it's important to get good sleep so that these guys can go out and do their work. So I mentioned earlier this particular subject that we suggested that she visit her dentist to see what might be going on in that area of her mouth, because it looks like some of the toxicity is headed downstream. Here's another subject that this is very interesting. You would say that this person, she's in her 60-year-old female, and her parents took her to the dentist regularly. She had excellent hygiene, according to what your dentist would say, regular brushing, regular flossing, regular cleanings. And still, you see in the left side of your screen the white areas, and the white areas is hot, hot, hot. This is lots of action going there. We need to figure this out. And the red is also the next stage of an inflammatory process. Now, these are locations that she has had crowns and bridges in her mouth, and she was absolutely shocked to see these scans because she just couldn't believe that something might be brewing here. So here you see on the right side of the screen, just 30 minutes after the exposure to these specific sound frequencies to reduce the inflammation. So there's the white areas. Look at the lymph system right there. And then in the after, we see that we're beginning to manage this situation and we're freeing up the lymph. So this is our goal, to help manage this type of situation. Here you see the side view. Now look back here at the purple area that I just circled. This is suspect. Now she didn't complain of anything here, but we did help that area 30 minutes later. But this is something that possibly in the not too distant future, she would complain of some hearing problems, maybe tinnitus, maybe vertigo, maybe a virus, something going on there. So we look at all of these things because sometimes it's so difficult to track where is the source of the issue. And the dental is a big one to look at.
So, and here's another subject. I'm just going to go through this very quickly. This was a 70-year-old woman, and she had periodontal disease and had really tried many ways to help it. And she was supposed to go for a tooth extraction, and so in the end, we saved that. And here we have another candidate, and you can see this was a whole 6 week. So you see the before, after 30 minutes, and 6 weeks later, we've calmed that all down. Green and blue is good. Um, Children and pets love the device. They can sit easily and place their feet on it. Some children that are a little less focused in the beginning, we sit with them and read a book, and then they calm down and they really enjoy their sessions. So I want to end my time with you by saying thank you very much for allowing me to share my life and my passion of sound, and to invite you to come to our booth, exhibit number 123. Or if those for those of you who are watching this post conference, visit our website and contact us. We'll be happy to answer all your questions. Thank you very much.